thankfully we have 5 yards that didn't get into the mountain laurel. You can see us talk about mountain laurel honey in our last video. I think it's called Our Bees Are Producing Toxic Honey. And out of all of our yards, only 5 didn't get into mountain laurel simply because there's none here. We're down on the upper Piedmont region of Georgia, which is south of our shop, a lower elevation, and they made pretty good honey. They've made a little bit of poplar, but most of it's blackberry. And right now the privet's blooming, so we're going to try to get the honey they made taken off. Now, out of all of our yards, these 5 are the only yards that we're going to be able to do what we had originally intended when we started the season. If you go back into our previous videos that we did earlier this spring, you can see us take splits out of these colonies and knock them down to 3 frames of brood and leave them with a bucket of syrup. And then we came back 3 weeks later and gave them the second box, which was 3 drawn comb and 7 foundations. And then when they were working into that pretty good, we came back and gave them supers. And they really have done quite well. I cannot complain about the amount of honey we've made this year. My only complaint is that much of it up north, up by the shop and north of the shop, tastes terrible. Now we've got supers on up there now that the mountain laurel's finished, and they are making a little bit of other stuff, but some of those colonies already have 100 pounds or more of honey that we can't use. This colony, these deeps, the second stories in this yard are rock solid. There's very little brood in them. So, and because that's good honey also, I'm going to take it just like we had intended to do with our whole outfit earlier in the season. Today we're going to put a queen excluder in between the lower box and the second box. These boxes are very full. Some of them are completely full of honey. Others are 80 or 90% with just 1 or 2 frames of brood. We'll put the excluder in here, and then when we come back to get the honey next week, it'll be mostly clear bees because we're putting the bee escapes on today. We will inspect these 2 boxes and figure out where the eggs are. I expect most of the queens to be in this bottom box because that's where we've been finding them lately. But if we do find eggs up here, we will search for the queen. We will find her and put her below the excluder, and then let this box completely hatch out, and we'll harvest it 3 weeks after that date, or at least 3 weeks. Then we'll know all the brood is hatched. Hopefully there'll be at least enough of a flow where they'll backfill the brood that hatched, and we're going to leave them with 1 empty medium super also. The flow is slowing down at this point. The tulip poplar is over in this location. The only thing we can hope for is a little bit of ground clover, and it's so dry. I'm not sure how well that's going to do. But there, 1 out of 5 years in this location we actually make honeydew. I think it comes off of white oak trees, I'm not positive. But it can occur in late May or early June about 1 out of 5 years. So I have to leave that extra super on for sure to give them room for anything that might come in. And if it doesn't come in, they need the space anyway because they got a lot of bees. And in about 3.5 weeks, we'll come back and get that box off and harvest that, and then it'll become a single again with an excluder and a super or 2. And then in about 5 weeks, this yard of bees is going to go north back up into the mountains and make sourwood honey for us in July. And probably have 4 or 5 yards down in this area that will get moved north because there's no sourwood in this area, or very little I should say. It's just kind of a mediocre small flow in July. If we take them up into the mountains, if it's a good year, we can, make 60 or 100 pounds of sourwood. So that's what's going on today, lifting all this stuff up. It's a lot of work, but that's just the way it is. Welcome to beekeeping. This hive was given a box of foundation on top, and they've done a little work on it. It's not plugged out, but boy, that is really light honey. I can't help it. I got to taste it. pretty good. Not sure what it is. And this box is plugged out. And that box of foundation is plugged out. Yeah. So, got to get down. Need an excluder. So Lena, this is where you're going to come in. If you'll just get around that side. Well, that's fine actually. That's mostly full. Just put that excluder down. And then we'll come back next week and we'll know where the queen's at. I need an empty super right here, John, and then all this stacked back on top.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I'll just keep moving forward and you can come behind me.
Okay.
So you're going to need a bunch of excluders. Yeah, same thing here. Let's see. Now, John, I'm just going to let you come right behind me. They're not really too mad considering Martin just mowed here.
Right.
He just mowed. Did you see him pulling out?
Yeah, we saw him.
He just mowed before we got here.
Give him a chance, Bob.
All right. This is what happens when the bees run out of room. They clog up between the boxes with burr comb. It's not a big issue. That's one of the beauties of using escape boards. When you put that escape board on and the honey super's up above, they'll clean all that up. It won't be a drippy mess when we come back in 3 or 4 days. All in all, these colonies have done really good. I'm really impressed. They're all just really full, so good news. Jesse, would you pop that lid for me?
Yeah.
Every super looks like this. They're just plugged out. There's only just a handful of supers that aren't 100% full. Let's see what's under this.
They got a little weight there.
They got weight. No complaints. Yeah.
They got weight, they got bees.
Yeah. Now, if our whole outfit was good honey like this, we'd really have a harvest. You know?
We would, wouldn't we?
We would. So in this yard, we got a whole bunch of privet in full bloom. Privet's not all that good of honey either. It's not as bad as mountain laurel or wild cherry, but it definitely has kind of an afterburn to it. In this area, it's kind of the last major thing to bloom in the spring. Of course, we still have the sourwood to come in this location, but spring honey flow's about over. So I guess the bees are putting privet on top of the mountain laurel and wild cherry in this location, so there won't be any spring honey here. We actually have made a lot. It's just that so much of it tastes bad we can't use it. So it's just one of those years where I won't have much spring honey to sell, which is a big deal for me because in our retail store people come in looking for local honey a lot. I'll have to kind of be moderate in the way I sell it. I won't be able to wholesale it. We'll just keep it for our own retail purposes. Anyway, privet is one of those honeys that it's kind of odd. It actually gets better with time. I kind of learned that one year when I had a bunch of barrels of it and I didn't use it because it had such a bad taste, and a year later I tapped into it and the flavor had actually moderated a bit. almost all honeys deteriorate flavor-wise over time, but Privet actually seems to get better. That bad taste seems to kind of disappear and go away after a while. It's unusual that way. This Privet has an interesting smell. Some people don't like it. I think it kind of smells pretty good. It's really pervasive. When it's blooming like this, you can smell it everywhere. And this is a nice bee location. Up a hollow here in Rabun County, northeast Georgia. It's a beautiful day.